welcome. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Hannah, and in our practice, we are doing yoga for the heart. So this is a practice for absolutely everyone, and it's going to be focused on opening up the chest and bringing some awareness to the heart center. So let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to begin in a sitting position on our mat. So as always, you can use any props, blocks, cushions, rolled up towels, anything at all that you have handy to elevate your seat if that makes you more comfortable. And it doesn't matter what position you sit in. You can be on a chair, you can sit in any cross-legged position, be on the knees. If you need to, of course, lie down. Make this practice work for you. Modify where you need. So as you get yourself comfortable, I'll invite you to close the eyes. If you'd prefer, of course, leave them open, but just soften your gaze. And let's just check in, maybe take a slightly deeper breath. Just arrive here. And then just let the breath be natural for a moment. And just observe how the breath feels. And see if you can observe how your body feels today. And then also check in with the mind without looking for anything specific, if possible without judgment. Just check in, just acknowledge what's going on for you. How are you feeling? What sort of thoughts are you having? And then if you can for a moment, I want you to see if you can use that awareness and begin to spread it evenly between observing what the mind is experiencing, what the body is experiencing, and what the breath is experiencing. So can you be aware of breath, body, and mind all at once? And without changing any of those things, just as you are, can you be aware of the sensations in your body, the comings and goings of the mind, the inhale and the exhale of the breath? And then bringing your attention solely to your breath. And let the breath begin to deepen. Just thinking about bringing the breath into the belly, so really finding that expansion of the belly as you inhale, and that gentle contraction of the belly as you exhale. And breath is coming in and out through the nose. And as you take a few more deep breaths, just like this, conscious deep breathing, see if you can ground down through your foundations, so through your sitting bones, if you're sitting upright. And find maybe a little bit of extra length through the spine. Let's make sure that the shoulders are relaxed and let the muscles in the face be soft. And if the eyes are closed, you can gently let them open when you're ready. And we're just going to keep that breath nice and full and deep. We're going to inhale to reach the arms up overhead when you're ready. No rush. Maybe looking up if that feels nice. And as we breathe out, we're just floating the fingertips back down to the ground, realigning the spine. A few more rounds like that. So breathing in, lengthening up to the spine. Maybe opening through the chest if that feels good. Exhaling. Stacking head over shoulders, over hips. One more time. Inhaling, lifting up. And exhaling. Breathing out. Finding that alignment of the spine. Beautiful. So we breathe in this time, take the arms up once more. As we breathe out, we're going to twist. So we're going to bring our left hand down towards our right knee. So I'm going to mirror you. And that right hand can just come down to the ground or behind the back, wherever it reaches. Beautiful. Inhale, take the arms back up, come through center. Exhale, other side. And don't worry if moving into this twisting motion feels a little bit tight or stiff. Just go as far into it as you comfortably can. Inhale. Lifting up, align the spine, exhaling, just moving over to the side as far as your mobility allows you today in your practice in this moment. Last time, second side. Beautiful. We're inhaling when we're ready, coming back up. And exhaling, floating the hands down. Let's find our way into our all fours position. Take your time. And again, if you're practicing on quite a hard surface, please feel free to pad up your knees if you need to. It's really, really important that we take care and look after our knees. So have whatever you need on hand just to make sure that you are safe in your practice. So let's take a few moments here just to ground down. So just finding our foundations. Maybe you close the eyes here again, looking for that lower abdominal contraction that I talk about a lot in these videos. So pulling the belly button towards the top of the pubic bone, so that we're just making sure that we're not collapsing our spine and our lower backs. We're taking that unnecessary arch out of the lower back. And then holding those lower abdominal muscles strong, we're lengthening through the spine. Pull the crown of the head forwards, draw the shoulders away from the ears, micro bend in the elbows. Press down to the base knuckles of the fingers and spread the fingers. So really strong connection through the hands and through the lower legs. Feel the tops of your feet, your knees, your shins, whatever part of your legs are connecting with the ground. Beautiful. Let's wait for our next inhale breath to soften the belly, coming into our cow stretch, either looking forwards with the head or up, whatever feels comfortable for you. Exhaling to reverse, hug the abdominal muscles in. Rounding out through the spine, tuck the chin. Good. Inhaling when you're ready. Softening through the belly, gently arching the spine, exhaling to reverse. And just going at your own pace for a few more rounds of breath. So slowly, when you feel ready to, just even out. So finish your last round. And just making your way back into that all-fours shape. If your wrists are feeling a little bit sore, you might like to sit back for a moment and just shake out the wrists. Make sure you keep them mobilized. Okay, and just coming back to the hands when you're ready. Take as much time as you need to rest. We're going to be taking our right foot back. So we're extending the leg, and I want you to really press that right heel towards the wall behind you. So we're lengthening through the front of that right hip joint. Engage those lower abdominal muscles and then pull the crown of the head forward. So we have this idea of length happening through the spine. Now from here, you may like to swivel your left foot more behind you for a little bit more stability. If you've a bit more space than me, you can take that foot all the way behind the knee. We're going to spin that right foot down, and we're just going to come into a bit of a modified side plank here, stretching those right fingertips up to the sky. Maybe looking up at our fingertips if that feels good. If you want a little bit more intensity here, you may even reach those right fingertips overhead. If you're going to take this overhead motion, just make sure that we don't drop the chest down. So we're really focusing on rolling the chest up. Center is strong. We're still pulling the belly button towards the top of the pubic bone. One more breath here. Beautiful. And then very, very slowly, let's circle that arm up, down. Be mindful of the knees as we just come back into that all-four shape. And we're going to just take a moment here in all fours, find our foundation, find our breath. Not rushing on to the next thing, just being present. And then when we're ready, let's slowly extend that left foot out behind us. So let's find the length first of all. So press that left heel back. And then keeping that leg lengthening, especially through the front of the left hip, then draw the crown of the head forward. So we start to feel this dual motion, this push and pull through the spine. Center is strong. Okay, we're going to spin the left foot down. If you want more stability, just spin very carefully on that kneecap, that right foot out towards the back of the knee. Okay, and then we're peeling the left arm up, and you might just stretch the fingertips up towards the sky, opening through the chest. If you want more intensity, you can gently extend that arm overhead, maybe looking up if that feels good for the neck. If it doesn't, you can look down, you can look side on, finding what works for you. But engaging those core muscles, pressing the outside edge of the left foot into the mat, stretching through those left fingertips. So deep side body stretch. One more breath here, and we're slowly going to release. Take your time. Be mindful of your knees. Come back into that all-four shape and just pause there for a breath. Just arrive, be present. Check your center is strong. And then find your child's pose for a moment, sitting hips back to heels, any child's pose variation. Take a few breaths. Beautiful. When you're ready to slowly rise up, we're going to tuck the toes and we're going to walk the hands backwards towards the feet and then press ourselves up, and we're going to unfold into a forward fold, gently lifting the hips. The knees can stay bent. They don't need to straighten, and the feet can be about hip width distance. shoulder width if you want a slightly wider stance. You can do whatever you want with the arms. Maybe give the head a bit of a shake. Just finding your breath here. And just noticing the sensations that show up in the body. Do you feel tightness anywhere? Do you feel areas that feel maybe really open? Okay, let's take our time. When we're ready, we're just going to let the knees soften if they're not already. We're going to let the arms dangle. And we're going to ground down all four corners of the feet without letting our toes clench. And we'll slowly begin to uncurl. Rising up, stand. No rush getting there. Take your time. The breath flow in and out. The shoulder, a little roll. Beautiful. And when you come to stand, take as much time as you need before taking a big wide step open on your mat. And the distance of your feet is really not too important. Just do what feels comfortable and what is a stance that allows you to feel stable. If you want a little bit more of a guideline, if you feel very stable regardless of where your feet are, aim for about one of your own legs distance between both feet. That's usually a little bit wider than you think it is. Don't worry if that doesn't seem achievable, but if you feel quite stable with the legs quite wide, that's roughly where I'm going to suggest you place your feet. Okay, and we're going to do triangle pose, Trikonasana today. So I want you to spin your left toes out to the short end of your mat. And then take a moment, check that you still feel stable. And if it feels comfortable for your back leg, then you have the option to maybe just change the angle of that back foot. And you might angle it in as far as 45 degrees, but it might be a lot less than this. So don't worry if 45 degrees doesn't feel achievable, don't worry about that. And only angle it in if it feels comfortable. If you feel any pinching or pulling in your hip, knee or ankle, I don't want you to worry about that angle, just keep it squared. Okay, but if it feels manageable and comfortable, you can angle that foot in as far as 45 degrees. And we're looking to keep the heel of our left foot roughly in alignment with the arch of our right foot. Okay. Now what I want you to do once you have this set up is flex your toes, spread your toes away from each other, and then place the toes back down on the mat, trying to maintain space in between them. So we're looking for really active feet, and we want all four corners of our feet to really be engaging, pressing the floor away. As we do this, our arches should lift slightly, and we should actually feel the muscles in our legs engage. So we want active legs. Okay, this is the foundation, the base of our triangle pose. Now doing all of this with your lower body, which should feel a little bit like hard work already, find your hip bones. Now in triangle, what we often talk about imagining is that we're wedged in between two panes of glass. Okay, so I want you to think about being in a very narrow space as you do this posture, and we're working towards bringing our hip bones towards the long edge of our mat. But I want you to make sure that you always maintain alignment of your front hip, knee, ankle, and toes. So if you find your hip bones, and you'll probably feel that they're not directly squared, they'll be a little bit twisted. Just see if there's any space to begin opening the hips up, but watch that right leg and make sure that your right kneecap doesn't actually twist inwards. Okay, we need to make sure we have alignment. Hip, knee, ankle, toes. Okay, really important. So we're trying to open the hips only as far as we can, only as far as we have the space, while maintaining that alignment of the front leg. Our feet are active, our toes aren't clenching, our leg muscles are active, and then we're lengthening up through the spine. We can rotate our chest to the side as far as we have the ability to. We're going to stretch our arms out from our shoulders, relax the shoulders, find the breath. And then we're going to reach forwards to those left fingertips, imagining that we're tilting from the hips. So we're not actually bending the spine in our triangle, the hips are doing all the work. And you may like to come up and down a couple of times. Just give the hip joint a chance to warm up a little bit, check in and see how much mobility do I have before you actually move into posture. And when you find the point that you think this is as far as my hips want to go today, great. Take your left hand and either rest it on your left thigh, or if you can reach, you can take it to your left shin. And your right hand has the option, if it feels accessible and comfortable, to stretch up towards the ceiling, stacking above the shoulder. If this doesn't work for you, you can bring the hand to the hip or behind the back instead. And if it feels good for your neck, you might look up at your fingertips if that doesn't feel good. Look wherever you want to look, side on, down at the ground, whatever works for you. Now, as you take a few breaths here, engage your lower abdominal muscles. Make sure you're pulling your belly button towards the top of your pubic bone, so you're really stabilizing through your lower spine, and then think about rolling the chest open a little bit more. So we really want to open the heart here. Make sure your toes aren't clenching. If you want a little bit more of intensity, you can take the hand off the leg. Stretch the fingertips, lengthening through the spine. One more breath here. Beautiful. Press down through the feet, engage your center. Come all the way up to stand. Very carefully bend the knees and just heel toe the feet in. And you might like to give them a little bit of a shake, wiggle the hips, whatever you need, just to reset. And once you feel ready, let's try the other side. Okay, so finding that stance. A distance, perhaps one of your own legs' distance between your feet, maybe just as far as you feel comfortable, stable. Turning the right toes out 90 degrees towards the short end of the mat. Option to angle that left foot in as far as 45 degrees. Maybe not. Choose what works for you. Check in and see, how does your left leg feel? Your hip, your knee, your ankle. Okay. Engage the muscles in the legs. Make sure the toes are active but not clenching. All four corners of the feet pressing down. Lengthen through the spine. Find your hip bones. Open the hips while making sure that you don't twist that knee in. So keep your knee in alignment with your ankle and toes. Engage your center. Take the arms up when you're ready. Chest can open. Take a breath. And let's take a few rounds. Just moving into the hips. Oh, there you go, my hips popping. Very normal for your hips to click when you do this. So just take maybe a couple of rounds if that feels good. Just seeing how much mobility do I have. Usually on one side we have more mobility than the other. When you find the point your hips don't want to go any further, take the arm down, shin, thigh, maybe you float the fingertips. Try not to hold on to your kneecap just because the kneecap is quite an unstable place to rest. Left arm can either reach up to the sky or it can come to the hip or behind the back. So work with your shoulder. Remember, it shouldn't be painful, this posture. There might be some mild discomfort, but it shouldn't be painful. And you should be able to breathe. Hopefully stay stable and not wobble and fall over like I am. So use your breath, use your concentration. There's a lot to think about in triangle. Ground down through all four corners of the feet. Keep the leg muscles engaged. Hug in your lower abdominal muscles. Roll the chest open while keeping the lower part of your torso and spine stable and strong. Beautiful. One more breath here. And we're going to use our core strength and the strength in our legs to press all the way up nice and slowly. Bend the legs carefully. Bring the legs a little bit close together. Give the hips a wiggle. Give the ankles a little rock. Beautiful. Let's step back to the top end of the mat. And feet coming back to that hip width position. And we're going to bend the knees. Bring the hands to heart center and just take a moment in chair pose. So it doesn't need to be a chair pose. You can stay up nice and high for this. Tuck the tailbone under. Keep lengthening through the spine. Heart is open. One more breath here. As you breathe out, let's fold forwards. Forward fold. Beautiful. Inhale when you're ready. Just find a flat back position. Hands can come to the shins if you like. Open the chest. Nice long breath. And then breathing out. Hands down. Let's walk the feet back. Just take one downward dog here for a moment. If you want to skip downward dog, you can come straight to child's pose. If you prefer, just taking a breath or so. If you're in downward dog, you can move in this downward dog. You can walk out to the legs if that feels needed. And give the head a shake, just finding whatever feels good in your body. And there's no rush, but we're all going to find our way down onto our bellies when we're ready. However you want to get there is fine. For Sphinx pose. Okay. So, you have a couple of options. Sphinx pose, ideally is not the right word I want to use. Traditionally, maybe? Conventionally. If your lower back is tight or you're working with other accessibility points in your body, Sphinx pose might not be accessible to you. Okay, so Sphinx pose is usually done on the forearms with a bit of a bend in the lower back, and this might not work. So if this feels too intense, walk your elbows and your fingertips forwards until you find the point that feels okay for you. Okay, so you don't have to be up super high. You can be super, super low in your Sphinx pose. If it feels okay for your back, then you can bring those elbows all the way underneath the shoulders. Fingers are spread, press the base knuckles down, and we're being slightly active through the hands and lower arms. Okay, so we're not just collapsing, letting the shoulders drop towards the ears. We're actively lengthening the shoulders and ears away from each other. Feet, take them out to the bottom corners of your mat so they're not super close together. Close the eyes here. If you want to look forwards, you can look forwards if that works for the neck. If that feels too tight, then just take the head down to wherever it needs to be. So it's more comfortable, perhaps in alignment with the spine. Find your breath. Taking another 4 or so breaths here in your version of Sphinx pose. Maybe just thinking about breathing into the center of the chest, breathing into the heart. Taking our last breath or so here. And we're all going to slowly walk our hands or slide our hands and arms forwards, I should say, as we come out of this. So being really gentle to our lower back, just slowly taking the arms forwards. And you can either lie one cheek to the ground or you can make a little pillow with your hands and you can rest your forehead down on the mat for a few breaths. Now when you feel ready to, let's slowly make our way over onto our back. So you can just take your time to carefully do a roll if that works for you. Just finding your way to come onto your back. And before we lie back for our Shavasana, I want you just to take a moment with your feet planted on the mat, knees facing up towards the ceiling. Maybe hands just down by the side of the body. And just pause here for a moment, either with the eyes closed or maybe just a soft gaze. And just take your awareness, if you can, to the base of the spine, down to the tailbone, and just scan along the spine. Just noticing any sensations that you feel as you move up a little bit higher into the lower back, the upper back, between the shoulder blades, the neck, the head. And just seeing if we can find a sense of being connected. As we lie here with our spine in alignment, sometimes worth noting that often when we are feeling a little bit sad or down or depressed, our body postures can change, and we often tend to round out through the shoulders and the back, sort of hollow out the chest. So it can be incredibly beneficial to sometimes just come to a position where we bring that spine into alignment and we don't actually have the option to be in anything other than aligned and connected. So gently just bring the knees up towards the chest or the armpits, whatever feels most comfortable. I'm just going to rock that lower back for a moment, just in any direction or motion that feels good. Might be a little bit of clicking in that lower back maybe. Just massage that out. And if you'd like to, you can just stay here if this feels good, just massaging out the lower back, or you may like to join me in taking a few breaths in Happy Baby. So option 1 is just pull the knees towards the armpits, holding on to either the hands, holding the knees or shins, or you can tuck the forearms in if that reaches, keeping your tailbone or your sacrum pressed down to the ground so the spine stays in alignment. If you want a little bit more intensity, flex the feet and just reach the feet up towards the ceiling. And if you can grab hold of the big toes or the heels or the feet, the ankles, whatever is within reach. And if this just feels too much, this really gets into the groin and the hips as well. Don't worry if this doesn't feel accessible today. It's perfectly helpful and complete to just hug the knees in towards the armpits. Really focusing on keeping that length through the spine. So press the tailbone down. Reach the crown of the head away. Nice long spine with plenty of space. Just finding that sense of being connected from head to tail. Allowing the energy that runs throughout the body, and specifically through the pathway that the spine creates. Allowing that energy to really come to your heart center and pass through there, energizing your heart center. Okay, helping you to feel whole. Just gently bring the feet down if they're lifted. And take your time to simply extend the feet down to the bottom corners of the mat. Either lying with the palms face up by the side of the body. Maybe hands on the belly, if that feels comfortable, maybe on the chest. Just letting the breath be natural for a moment. Just observing what the breath is doing, observing the sensations in the body, letting the body go, so not holding on to anything in the body. And seeing if we can also let go of holding on to anything in the mind. So again, just coming back to observe those three parts of ourselves, breath, body, and mind. Total acceptance, no judgment, just observing, just being. If you have some more time in your day to stay here a little bit longer, and please feel free to do that. If you need to finish up your practice and take your time to gently bring the knees in, roll onto one side, maybe pausing there for a moment. And just slowly and carefully bringing yourself up to sit when you're ready. No rush. Eyes can be closed or the gaze can be soft, and just stacking head over shoulders, shoulders over hips, finding that alignment. And that idea of being connected from the very top of our spine all the way down to the base, connecting down to the earth and also connecting up into the sky. We'll finish our practice by taking one last breath together, inhaling through the nose. Exhaling through the mouth. You can let your eyes open whenever you're ready. Thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful day, evening. I look forward to practicing with you again soon. Goodbye.